Heyo, Hipper here. So if you just purchased Tiny Tina's Wonderlands and you are aching to get started, well, I fully understand you, and I felt the same way. So I'll just tell you here what character I think you should start off with. And it's not the Berserker here. I've played them all, and this guy is more about melee damage, and same here with the Stabbomancer. It just takes a little bit more finesse and a little bit, of actually getting into the quirks and corners of your character. And the same thing with the Clawbringer here as well. Like he focuses on fire and lightning damage, and it's just not the easiest way to get started. And exactly the same thing with the spell shot here. I'm pretty sure that's the one everyone's gonna, start off with, and especially Graveborn, because this is like Krieg in Borderlands 2, which like you are giving up health to actually do stuff, and it takes a bit of nuance. What I suggest people start with, if they haven't played this game before, if they haven't played a Borderlands game before, then I say go with the Spore Warden here. You see, he gets pretty much the best of everything, and of course you can set him up the way you want. I usually pick Village Idiot here as the twist of fate, because there's no real background that really fits that guy perfectly, so I just usually pick the one that gives me extra strength, which means more critical damage. But as you'll see later, I kind of like to put a little bit of stuff into Constitution for this guy here, especially in the beginning, because when you start playing the game, it's going to be quite difficult, especially if you play on the higher difficulty levels. So I recommend that you put quite a bit of points into your Constitution. You can put all 10 if you want to. It will make you very, very tough, and it'll make things quite a bit easier. You can also spread it out a bit, pop a little bit in dexterity, and perhaps a little bit in strength. But attunement is also, but I would save that for later in the game. I know he's highlighted as best for Spore Warden here, but once you play the game, and especially if you're new to the game or you haven't played Borderlands or a Borderlands kind of game in a while, I highly recommend that you go Constitution. Especially, like I said before, if you play on the higher difficulty levels. There's nothing wrong with popping 10 points in there, it will help you. But 5 in Constitution and 5 in Attunement, probably a very nice way to go, I think. The best thing about playing the Spore Warden is that you get access to his little pet, which is a mushroom companion here. And you can use this guy to tank damage for you, and it works extremely well, especially if you're new to the game. And you do have to put up with his naked butt here, but if you can live with that, then I highly suggest that you go with the Spore Warden here. So if you just look at the character here, so you see the top perk here is the Mushroom Companion, and you can ping an enemy for the Mushroom Companion to attack for you, which is a very good way of getting in the first hit on enemies and bring some confusion. So just point out the enemy you want him to attack, and then press the down D-pad, and he springs into action. And you can set up some very nice surprise attacks this way. So if we look at one of the action skills here, which is the Barrage, let's look at that one first. It's pretty much just shooting 7 arrows, and of course it recharges once in a while, and it's very, very efficient if you're dealing with many enemies, especially if they line up and you can shoot right through them like I'm doing here. It really helps, especially for a new player, this skill here. And then we have Blizzard, which is also extremely useful. I use this all the time when I play. What it basically does is that it gives you 3 frost tornadoes that you can use, and it's very useful against especially larger bunches of enemies, and if you use it while you're shooting, obviously you do more damage. Once you get a little bit further in the skill tree, you can actually pick a perk that allows your Mushroom Companion here to let one rip, or in other words, he'll fart a cloud of poisonous gas that again is like it's a passive thing. He just does it, and it helps you out in battle. You don't really have to think about it, and it's a very, very useful skill actually. And the higher you level your character, obviously the better it'll be. If you can set up situations where you can use your mushroom companion, your action skill, your guns, and the mushroom companion's farting here at the same time, that's when you really, reach the peak of this build here, and it works extremely well. And of course, I forgot to mention that the mushroom companion also tanks damage for you, and that's very useful in this game because sometimes there's a lot of enemies and they just rush at you, all of them at the same time. So it's good to have another, like a kind of a damage sponge around to confuse and distract the enemies. So in my opinion, I think this mushroom companion here is probably the best part of this spore build here. He looks a little bit weird, and I mean, he doesn't really do anything. He just walks around until you tell him to attack something. But as I said, this is probably the most beginner-friendly build you can possibly start out with in this game here. And I think you should, because this is a game that you're supposed to play through several times with different builds. And if you think it's a little bit boring, then once you get like a little bit into the game, you will be able to mix this build with another character. And then you can pick something a little bit more interesting with like, more magical powers or stuff like that. But to start out with, I highly recommend the Spore Warden. So I hope this video was interesting and helped you a little bit, and I'll see you out there.